Hey everyone, my name is Lucas and I am the new guy on YouTube. On this channel you will get information about stuff I care about in a short and concise way. I'm not here to waste your time after all. If you watched the news lately, it's likely that you've heard of Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, who recently took a 10-minute trip to space with a spaceship that his company, called Blue Origin, had built. What is remarkable is that the first stage of the rocket, sometimes also called booster, landed back on a launch pad. Previously, that was science fiction, and Blue Origin isn't the first company or agency doing it. SpaceX, the company led by Elon Musk, was the first to ever recover a booster in 2015. In this episode, I'll be sharing my thoughts on why the space industry will never be the same again. The one and only reason why the space industry will be disrupted is due to reusable rockets. Currently, there are only two companies that have the technological capability to land the first stage of their rockets after they transported payload to space or to orbit. These two companies are SpaceX and Blue Origin. To date, however, SpaceX is the only one actually transporting payloads to orbit and returning the booster back to a launch pad. To anyone wondering, yes, there is a giant difference between space and orbit. Orbit is the circular way of flying around the globe in space, so above the atmosphere. Space, however, can be reached without reaching orbit. The recent flight by Mr. Bezos was to space, not to orbit. Anyway, let's do a quick thought experiment. Imagine you want to buy a car and it costs $30,000. Who can afford to buy that car? Someone with 30 grand in their pocket, you may say. But what if the same car only costs $3,000? That would be a 10x reduction in price. That 10x reduction made it reachable to many, many more people. Imagine if there was a 1000x reduction. That would bring the cost for a car to $30. The same will happen to rockets once they become rapidly reusable after each flight, just like an airplane. A prominent example of this is if an airline threw away the plane after each flight. Almost nobody could afford to fly. Thankfully, airplanes tend to land in airports after each flight. Then they are refueled and then they're headed to the next destination. If the same reusability comes to rockets in the coming months or years, it will be a massive game changer. Instead of a rocket launch costing a company $100 million, it may be costing as little as $10 million, possibly even less. SpaceX's goal is to bring launch costs to around $2 to $3 million. But how is it actually achieved? Let's hypothetically say that the construction of a rocket, including development costs, costs $95 million. Add fuel costs of $1 million and personal and other administrative costs of about $4 million per flight, and you have the launch cost of roughly $100 million. If you use the rocket once, it would be $100 million. If you used it 10 times, it would have a price per launch of $14.5 million. When used 1,000 times, a launch would only be around $5 million. So for the cost of one launch today, a company would then be able to launch 20x the payload for the same price to orbit or space, depending on whether you use Blue Origin or SpaceX. But all jokes aside, it makes a dramatic difference. If the cost of something is lowered by multiple orders of magnitude, it is called disruption. It opens the field to many more, including private companies, space agencies of states with a smaller budget, or even individual people. The cost of going to other planets and thus advancing scientific research would be dramatically lower. And in the end, that benefits all living creatures on Earth. Tell me what you think in the comments below. My name is Lucas. I am the new guy, and I would love to see you in the next episodes.